party hat day, apparently. I don't know what's going on, but...
Thank you for the
club.
You're like a big unicorn.
Today, doing whatever art I need to do, catching up.
Because I've never sat down in my life and tried to build platforming paths in 3D.
Yeah, I've never worked on a platformer either, to be honest.
At what point do we need to address the camera a little bit more too?
We don't have as much done as I'd like to have done, but that's kind of always the case. Here?
This does not exist right now.
What does exist? We're gonna kick off another brain, so we're gonna put Helmet on hold.
Have you talked about what brain that might be?
I don't remember where she put it. She's got one where she's got the full Raz, like...
What's a crystal skull? Why is there a crystal skull in the game? You know that's the worst indie movie.
I know.
Why is it modeled? What's happening? What did I... Oh my God. I am back just in time.
I know. Well, yeah, we don't have an art director. So I'm not paying as close attention to everything.
I'm kidding.
It'll
be fine.
I don't think it's fine. I think we actually wish we were doing more important things.
Is there anything else you'd like from me? On
No, I mean, just the thing that I said about Helmet's brain is like, knowing what you know about that brain and all of the key scenes, like, does it make sense? Do you see a path for it to be a good Psychonauts mental world? You know, does it have everything we need? It doesn't have a super great sense of place, and it doesn't have a strong cast of characters. That you don't go in and discover like different aspects of his personality, and so it's a little bit of an outlier.
Geez, how do you fix that?
I don't know. Maybe there's
those all
multiple
seem
helmets.
structural to the like. It does seem like the setup is that lonely boat.
Yep.
It seems to be
lonely
like
boat. Yeah. So that's more just my question for you of like if you're confident that you can still make that level work from a writing perspective.
Because I was expecting when you pause it, it's like, oh, pause it, and then when they do the second level, it'll be awesome, and they'll look back and be like, oh, you know what, we totally...
Yeah, there will be, for sure.
So I don't know if I want to say that right now to them.
So the answer is no then.
Well, I'd rather get ahead of them on whatever the next brain is going to be a little bit so I can provide some of those answers so they have a little less tap dancing they have to do around the hookups.
Is that so perfectly honest, do you want to is this driven by you would like to provide more work for them, or sorry, you'd like to do more work up front so they don't have to do the work, or you're not happy with the solutions they came up with and you want to make sure there's stronger direction in place?
Well, I feel like there's narrative things I feel like are my job, which are like telling the bigger story of the Psychonauts.
Right.
And I feel like there's a handoff with the level at some point. And I feel like we didn't quite get to the next runner how to throw the baton this time. And I'd like to get a little closer where I feel like it's natural for them to pick it up.
Yes. And I guess my question is do you feel like in the case of Helmet, the solutions they came up with are good enough or not?
Well, I feel like we're still hand-waving over much stuff and saying it's a writing problem, but I feel like I would like to answer those writing problems ahead of time, because then you can support them in your level design. You can be like, oh, we really want to emphasize that you need the brain for this reason and have that show in Helmet's level.
Well, or like the thing that happened with Helmet, they hooked onto the small details they did have, which was he's a Viking.
Right. They took what, that's what I'm saying. I think the concept was underdeveloped, and so they took the only details they had and they made a whole level out of it. And I feel like we should at least provide a rich thing here, and then they could have a choice of things to develop, and then... So, and I bet if I think of anything, and I think of anything that really makes me excited about talking about it, I bet they'll get excited. We'll all get excited together.
Yes.
And then that will be great.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's go look at the brain list. Or not. We can do it at your time.
Come on, Levi.
Okay. Let's do it.
Thank you for reading the brain list. So we're just going through it to familiarize everybody. Bob Zanotto, who's Lily's uncle, who's Truman's brother, who was older and friends with Ford. And he came to fight Maligula and stayed in this town. And he has this brain where when he's drunk, it's like this flooded town, and it's all just underwater. And then if you can sober him up, it's dry, but then the ghosts come back to town. So it's like a haunted town or a haunted house that you can get rid of the ghosts by flooding it. And
Have you settled on the level you're going to move to next?
I think we decided on drunk.
Yeah, the drunk one.
If you think the problem is that he's a drunk, and then you dry it out, and then you find out what his real problem
that
is.
he's haunted by his past. He's haunted by all these memories of the.
But that has really fucked up like implications where you're like
It's very fucked
sobering
up.
a guy up and
Yeah.
then like knocking him off the wagon to change the state of the world.
That's the thing that like kind of like gives me the most pause on this level. Is like it seems super sad.
It seems like we'll have to be way more careful.
I think Raz should have to jump out of his mind and then just upend a bottle into his mouth to change the water level in the.
Cameras are on. Cameras are on. You got to turn the mic off before you. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, again, the town drunk, the one where the narrative surrounding context is at least resolved. You know, like that was well, we could do it. We could figure it out. That's when the way that Helmet. We're like, I'm not sure why he's there, but. It's time.
Level review, all kinds of reviews, and decided on which brain the team's going to work on next. So that's cool. It's Bob Zanato's. Today I have lunch with a possible art director candidate, and that's everything. All right, awesome. What?
I wrote a thing.
You wrote a thing? All right.
Let's all go live in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some shit's gonna get kicked off.
Some shit's gonna get kicked off.
Okay, Bob Zanato. So, setting the scene here, Bobby Z. All right, Bob Zanato is Truman's
Possibly great.
brother or
Truman's uncle.
Truman's uncle.
What we were thinking and looking
That
at
makes
the
him Lily's great
timeline.
uncle, who she probably never knew
Yep.
because he's been gone all this time. He was
Yeah.
one of the original Psychic Seven.
Yeah.
He specialized-
He's in herbology. That's in the colony backstory document. Yeah, he studies a lot of
Studies a lot of
herbology.
herb.
I had somewhat new thoughts about Bob.
Okay.
If you want to hear him now.
Yeah. Sure.
This is another way that we could do it, and it would change some stuff. And it could be done really bad, or it could be done well. I don't know if we could.
We should do the good one.
Probably bad.
That's a good one. But if it sounds bad, you guys just pretend I never suggested it.
No, we had a meeting where you pitched the idea for this character to the team that you were not really comfortable with how they were going to accept it, or
Oh God, did I come off as? Could everyone tell how nervous I was?
It is cute when you can tell how nervous he is. I mean, so that's more just like of somebody who's like been doing it a very long time. And it's like, oh, they still get nervous when they're pitching ideas. That's funny. And that's not less about Tim and more just sort of like, yep, that's just how that never gets easy when you're talking about something you think is cool to somebody for the first time. You're like, here's this thing. See, I tend to think he's a little overprotective of that stuff. He keeps stuff very close to his chest until he feels like it's like good enough to withstand people.
Wait, so is he not like a crippling alcoholic, but someone who just drinks at night?
That you also can be an alcoholic and just drink a night. So.
That's not. Yeah, it's actually not. Yeah. Wait, is he like an alcoholic or just like one of us who drinks all night long? Right?
Somebody who gets really drunk every night.
But he's just a normal person with cans of soft drinks all over his desk. Okay. Does not have a drinking problem.
I should go.
He just turns out to be peach schnapps.
No, I mean that was sort of my assumption. Of that sounds all like what's already there, what we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm only here.
All right. Now, branch point.
And you go in there, it's revealed like, holy crap, Bob Zanato's not dead. He's just hanging out here. And also, someone else says he didn't want to come back because there was a bit of a love triangle. Ooh. Right. Okay. Hold on. Then you drain the ghosts. You fight the ghosts.
You do a level.
And you find out the love triangle he was not in love with Liglia, he was in love with Ford. Whoa! And that's part of the whole thing with what the ghosts are about as well. That was just an idea.
Love it.
What? It's like whenever you're trying to like tell a story of something that's not your personal experience, and you're pitching it to people who that may be actually their personal experience. It can be fraught with peril, and you don't want to do it wrong. So that can make you pretty nervous. It's going to seem silly later to have worried about that, but when you breach those kind of like I don't know if you've ever done a gay character in a game, and the first time you go through there, you're all nervous about it, and you're like, I don't know why we were so worried about that. But it could be that he just didn't want to go back to, if he was in love with Ford and he finally realized in that battle, that's not going to happen for a lot of different reasons.
He went into self-imposed exile.
I'm not going to go back to the colony, you know what I mean?
But a real hunk when he's young.
He's pretty dashing. Yeah. He's got like a Buster Keaton kind of thing going on.
The part of the story that
didn't age well,
makes
right?
me,
His eyes sort of went.
None of us fucking do.
As he got older.
The part of the story that feels a little like really to me is is everyone in love with Ford? Like, what is the deal? Like,
This is something I need to explain to younger people all the time. Older people actually used to be young, and and this is going to upset a lot of people, they got it on a lot. The Psychonauts changed so much. That was an end of an era when that battle happened. So there's really nothing for him to go home to at the old colony. He doesn't want to hang around with fractured Ford, and he feels like he needs to check out of that situation, I guess. We definitely dealt with some heavy topics in the first game. I think we're just a little bit more older and have more empathy towards the human condition, so we want to make sure we kind of lucked out a little bit with the first game, that we didn't just blunder into some incredibly insensitive stuff.
yeah, but it throws Ford under the bus too, right?
Yeah,
It's just like there's no reason to.
You just don't reattach that part of his brain. He's got a little homophobic slice, and you just leave it out there. No, but I mean, in general, it comes from people you meet. That's why I think, doing writing, you have to get out there in the world and meet a lot of people, because it's like you think about actual people, real people that you know, and you don't replicate them, but you use them as inspiration for how these things happen. And I think it's just as hard talking about maybe a gay character as an alcoholic character, because you don't want to, I'm not personally alcoholic, so I don't want to be disrespectful in dealing with that. We definitely want to have them be authentic and true and not exploitive, but we also are a lighthearted comedy. And we don't want to pretend that we're doing a textbook about psychology. We're an entertainment piece that is a humanistic entertainment piece. So that's all we want to be. He'd probably never told anyone his whole life that this is the case, right?
Except in the cool hippie commune. It could be that within that environment, he thought he finally had found a place that he could be open, and he did make a public declaration, and he wasn't accepted.
But they seem to really embrace it. They're like, oh yeah. And then they totally changed it and made it something totally different. But
I do like the idea of Helmet being his partner more than Ford.
Oh, just he and Helmet were gay and happy, and then he thought Helmet died.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Could be really interesting.
It establishes the rainbow bridges, though.
That's offensive.
Yeah.
We always knew.
It's okay.
We always
knew. So many rainbows in
his
here.
brain.
So I was like, oh, that wasn't exactly what I was pitching. Okay, if you guys got something, if they have something that inspires them to come up with a million more ideas for their level, then they should just run with that.
So I wrote up some backstory that, just as a proposal, that takes a lot of the stuff Tim wrote and fleshes it out. Raz hops into Bob's brain as he emerges in a brightly lit Mediterranean cliffside city, but Raz immediately feels uncomfortable here. Everything and everyone is is too big for him. He begins to wander the streets of the city, walking between the legs of the two tall citizens, and begins to get a grasp of the layout of the brain.
So.
Can we talk about it after?
Okay.
Were you?
So we can't have scale things. I think I need to axe that. So the thing is that the idea that everyone is actually much bigger than Raz introduces a technical challenge that we don't necessarily need. So if we don't need it, if we don't absolutely need it, we shouldn't use it, I guess.
Sure. I mean, like anything, yes, it'll be more work. So I mean, it seems like your main point is you don't feel like it's worth it.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to understand what is this realizable within the variants that we'll already have for our characters, which is going to be very, very large. Like Raz versus the largest characters in our game, the largest NPCs, is going to be a pretty big difference.
As a tech liaison, it's my job to just point out when things might get you might be adding extra complexity to something like this.
Sure.
So that's all I'm saying. And I personally, I'm not crazy about the idea because of the metaphor thing. because it's like it's the brain, like it's the brain's view of Raz rather than Raz's view of like the brain.
I don't think it has to be either, because I think it could just be the state of the brain and how we experience it.
My coffee's the name of my home brand. Goes to my coffee drinks.
Jeremy,
What?
would you like to talk
Why?
about your problems with the story?
No, I don't think it's that bad. You guys, it's okay.
Jeremy doesn't like the backstory stuff.
I didn't say I hate the story.
That is why I asked.
put that in the notes that you hate the story.
See?
Alright, I'm sorry for saying.
Stenographer.
No, I don't-
Can we
I
get
don't
that?
mind.
Sorry.
No, it's. I just want. If you do, I want to know why, so we can.
I didn't get it at first, but you guys kept pushing me to fucking give you guys a reason.
Okay.
You guys wouldn't just let me back out of it. You just kept pushing me. Jesus.
You know, I think what inspires them, maybe coming up with thinking about the narrative a lot, is what's going to give them gameplay ideas. But it's really when their gameplay ideas click in that we can really talk about what the level is going to be. That's what they're working on now, so we'll see where that ends up. Okay, I gotta go hear some pitches.
All right.
You guys, good meeting. Hello, Victor. Have you ever done this before? I'm trying to remember. Did you pitch last time?
Nope.
It's your first time.
Yes.
That's awesome. And except for we're starting to set up schedules, meetings for AFP, Amnesia Fortnite pitches. Amnesia Fortnite's a thing that we do. Did we ever talk about what that is? No, I'll tell you later. It's a game jam that we do, and everybody in the company is invited to pitch, encouraged to pitch. And some people meet with me in advance, and we can kind of hone your pitch together. You got a one-liner for me? One-line pitch.
No, but yeah. I want to make a outdoor adventure VR game. I've talked to you a little bit about like the kayaking portion of it.
In some ways, the Amnesia Fortnite process is still part of the lore of the company. The elders speak of it to the younger generation, and it gets passed down. So Amnesia Fortnite is when we take a break from what we're doing for 2 weeks, forget what we're working on before, and split the company into small groups, and they each have 2 weeks to make a game. We started doing this in the middle of Brutal Legend because I thought everyone was getting kind of bogged down with, you know, this one game for 4 years, and it'd be great to give everyone a break from that. Okay, I'm ready. Anyway, it's not a disaster, it's an experiment. Some of the games we do are just to prove out some, like, what if, you know, we had one that was like, what about augmented reality? This is way before people were talking about that. And we just did a test with that, and that was cool. So people can do crazy ideas for Amnesia Fortnite. It's not a totally alien concept, like we're just gonna stop what we're working on and make smaller games. Some of the choosing and the public stuff and the, you know, the voting seems kind of crazy to people and pitching, but they figure it out. But every time we try and get it on the schedule, everyone's like, oh no, there's so much, you know, it's like so much work. And people who are running projects are like, no, we're busy.
I mean, I think if you said, would it be good for the team to just take 2 weeks off and go relax and recharge their batteries? Like, yes, that'd be fantastic for the team. This is going to be kind of exhausting work for a lot of people, and hopefully the change does help people. But I think some people may come out the other side of it, you know, more exhausted. And then there's just the pure production brain, which is like, yep, you just took 2.5 weeks out of the schedule for this project. So,
I think even from our first Amnesia Fortnite ever, some people were like, we're so under the gun for our schedule, how could you possibly stop things for 2 weeks? And some people were mad the first time we did it, but it's just there's never a perfect time to do Amnesia Fortnite, and you always just try to stick it on the calendar, just like put it there, it's there, everybody work around it. It's 2 black weeks on the calendar that you can't plan anything.
When does the next sprint end?
well, next sprint is done Tuesday.
Okay, and what's AF in relation to that?
I think AF is right after that. Whichever
I see.
seems worse. Whichever seems better. What is it like after AF? Like, what is... It's like the day after AF finished. AF finished, and now everybody comes to work the next day. What happens? Is it nothing? Is everybody just...
Saturday. Is that right?
And then everybody takes I don't know. I haven't been here for one, so...
But it's definitely worth it, I think. This would be a chance to like just branch out and just try something that maybe isn't planned to, like, this would be a Double Fine game, or maybe it could be, but I encourage everyone to really just reach for crazy ideas.
Who's pitching for AF? Is it almost everyone? It's almost everyone. It is like a social cooperative WarioWare in VR. No, what?
Yeah, no, that's good. All I heard was money, money.
Yeah, I mean, for AF, I wasn't sure I was going to do it at all because I'm leading Psychonauts 2, and so I'm pretty busy, and the idea of like just doing rank and file work on somebody else's team for 2 weeks seemed pretty awesome. But I have a big list. I have a big giant list of game ideas. And he really liked this one, and as I thought about it more, just sort of like doing it in the format of AF, it seemed like a fun project to do. With one player in VR, and that player is quickly taken through a set of different challenges which are in completely different environments, and you're a different person. So like maybe you're a cat, or maybe you're the president.
Oh man.
Meanwhile, the people outside of VR are given clues that are kind of oblique and strange and confusing, and they're all yelling at you about what you should do in VR.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Approved.
Oh, good. We're making that one.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
Are you guys doing pitches?
Are you two doing one? Asif's doing one. I know Asif's doing one. So.
I have gotten a bunch of pitches in my office already. We filmed them, and it just reminded me of why I love Amuse Your Fortnite, because it's just like this huge explosion of creativity, and we find out like everybody in the office has an idea. Asif.
Yes.
Would you like to pitch a game from Amuse Your Fortnite?
Yeah, I will tell you about my idea. So it's a third-person action platformer where you have a limited amount of time to forage for the finest ingredients before preparing and plating a meal that will prevent giant, ravenous gods from eating the human race.
Are you feeding the gods?
Yes.
Okay. So you can make a giant meal?
Yes.
Like with bulldozers and stuff? Are you bulldozing things on the plates?
I will get to that.
All right.
So the gameplay is divided into 2 stages.
That's it. Okay. Any other questions about AF? We're all around. You don't think? Okay. Let's talk about projects. How's Psychonauts 2 doing? What did you guys do last week?
Psychonauts 2 is going swimmingly.
Imagine this level as it's built is like, have you ever had a stack of really dirty dishes, like not washed dishes,
Right
fill
now.
like all your dishes until all your dishes are dirty?
Field trip.
Yeah.
You've got townspeople that are hidden away in their houses. They haven't come out for a while. But then maybe when you're in there, the water raises again.
Yep.
And you have this surreal thing is like seeing a city underwater. So you would have the view of water on the outside while you're in someone's like kitchen having tea with them or something
That's
like
also
that.
awesome. So like a hanging garden is, it's like vertically arrayed.
And that could be another thing, like where the thing is rickety and like there's the town, and as the parade moves around, it's what's causing the thing to, and everybody gets over here and the whole thing goes.
And all the stuff happening with Bob's level is super exciting. It's all really good.
Oh yeah?
All really good. Good stuff.
New stuff?
Good. They're exploring. A lot of exploration.
Cool. Did they pick a setting yet?
So
wait, why is everyone gathered?
Who's also super drunk, so his inside of his brain is all filling and draining, and it's a big Mediterranean city with a party going on. It's gonna be awesome. We'll show some stuff in this meeting when it gets further along. The hub block-in continues.
Psychonauts. This is what's going on in Psychonauts.
Exactly.
That's all we needed from you.
I don't know. Actually, I'm not up to date on the latest. I know there's this idea of like maybe everything's too tall for Raz or something like that, but I've seen a little bit of that in the document, but I think we're gonna have a meeting soon. Maybe even today. What are we talking about?
Talking about Bob Z and the incredible new ideas that this team has come up with.
So it is a hanging planter. And
right, so like as you do stuff and as water sort of gets poured into it, it would like slosh in different directions, and like those cables would creak or snap or move, and each of those 3 levels I'm imagining would like react to having water pushed into it.
Exactly.
Is the idea? Like little,
yes.
Yeah.
What makes you guys choose a hanging pot? Just in my head, I feel like a hanging plant feels really stable to me. Like it wouldn't tilt unless it was swinging a lot. Like it wouldn't. You know what I mean? It's hanging from a rope. It would be absolutely.
Well, when you pour, the idea is you pour water into it, and the water drains, and the whole thing. As
so,
the
like
water.
the ropes on one side would buckle. Is it? You know what I mean? Like the way that's hanging, it looks like it would never tilt.
But some of those supports have already snapped away, and so the thing is on more of a pivot.
Yeah, but then you're getting away from like what people might recognize as a thing that actually exists. Like who would know whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This seems. Yeah. I don't know.
And
like a
one more
solvable problem.
thing I'm trying to figure out is how you make every frame of it look special and unique, because once you zoom in on this, does it just look like you're in a village? How do you make it look like, because like all of art, we always have this issue where the concept art always tells the story, but then when you go into player scale, like you can't see it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it feel miniature. And you want to.
But I just mean if you zoom into that, it's
not about pots anymore.
It's not about pots anymore. It's more like you're just in a village.
And do you think that problem is more than just establishing it?
I mean, even like Waterloo World, you're always looking at the hexes. Black Velvet, you're always looking at that aesthetic, and like the stage, you're always looking at the stage. Everything always looks weird every frame because of the world that you've chosen.
It seems like that's just a problem that's not solved yet, not a problem that's unsolvable.
I didn't say it was unsolvable. I just don't know how you're going to do that yet. But yeah, if you guys have ideas for making that.
The more I think about it, I really like the idea of pulling the camera out.
I wouldn't count on that as a technique.
Sure.
Just because it's going to be constrained by what we need to do for gameplay.
Sure.
So the stronger theme then is the miniaturization. Like this is what you feel is special about the level, is that it's
visually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the end result would be kind of like the Pikmin level or the Bugs Life level.
So it's like, oh, here's a tree, but it is just like a blade of grass, or like maybe not that small, but yeah, a fern. I guess the thing about how do you always know you're in this location from inside the level seems like a visual problem, or a visual thing, not even.
Well, yeah, and a totally solvable one.
Yeah, I mean, even Waterloo is it is visual. It does that, you're always seeing these hexes.
Yeah, but it's in the basic premise of the levels that it's always going to look weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this thing is super visually arresting, and I can totally imagine that working and having the mix of tilt shifty. I feel like I'm super small in a big Bugs Life Pikmin kind of world. Plus, as the water comes through, there's these little rivulets of water that cause the level to slosh back and forth, and then everything tilts, and there's a whole bunch of little kinetic elements that open and close and move around because of that. And then you delve down into the dirt, and there's the second layer version of that, and then the creepy ghost at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's exciting to me is the idea of that cute Lilliputian thing plus the pretty heavy stuff we're dealing with in the level.
Yeah.
Seems really interesting.
Putting you on the spot, how do you feel about if this goes to White Box? And Psychonauts 2 is a level that has a sort of terracotta hanging garden at a miniature scale where the thing getting watered causes it to slosh back and forth, and all kinds of kinetic water puzzles. But
I think kinetic water puzzles are an awesome thing to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last week we had a good meeting about Bob, and we're getting real close. And today we're gonna get even closer.
Same.
I was in maybe a different meeting from you guys on Friday. Felt like it was 9 hours long. It's gonna be a big thing to figure out.
Yay! Bob Z, folks.
Thanks, Bagel.
Stay behind.
Are we in trouble?
No, we're not in trouble. But I will tell you what I think is going on. We need to have a smaller format, more brainstorming meeting. I think a lot of the fundamentals and core structure and everything are pretty solid, but we're still sort of grasping at the overall organizational high concept, kind of visually and thematically. And I think it would be good for us to sit down and leaving aside the baggage that we already have, just talk about some of that stuff and see if we can come up with anything that we like better, and if it fits with what we have, or if it changes what you guys have already talked about. Because it feels like right now it's sort of putting an overlay of high concept onto a structure that already exists, and I think that is maybe not. I mean, it's been as productive as it's going to be, and really focus it on more of an open. Tim has to, yes.
Okay.
So we'll do that later in the day.
You getting pizzas?
The high concept was good, but the execution of it wasn't something that I think is going to be workable. And circle back with Tim to talk about that. And I think, we both agree that like, okay, the real feedback is that the level needs a stronger core high concept that people can kind of immediately grasp structurally and be excited about. But I don't think that one is workable.
On this project especially, we have to make it clear to everyone involved that that is the goal of the project, to not do the typical, and to every time you get an assignment and think, your first thought is like, well, here's a way to that you could do that, and you're like, then you should need to have a second and third thought after that, like, well, here's a less typical way to do that.
But I think he was right, and I think it was something that multiple people had said, that the level needed a more direct and arresting high concept than it currently had, which was a lot more like a standard city feel. So. But at the end of the day, we're not going to make something unless we think it's going to be. We all think it's going to be super awesome. So you guys need to, and we need to.
And the basic setup thing that I like, not specifically, but in general, is just that there's a problem. There's a ghost all over.
Okay, yeah.
He it floods the area. That's great. Problem solved. There's a ghost, but he's eroding the village or whatever. He's doing something bad that way, and you show him another way of like, okay, look, let's deal with the ghosts. Or, that being the basic setup.
Like, let's talk about like some high level images and structures, because I feel like that's what is missing. Okay, you've got a big wobbly stack of stuff that drains and moves around, and what could that thing be? And so I'm like, it could be a stack of dirty dishes, or it could be, you have a drawing of like all
Those
the
were
little...
like pots. Like, just the idea of like him living in squalor and the stacked up dishes is kind of representative in the sink of people kind of just not caring anymore.
I had a friend who I was working on cars with, and he was like living alone. His girlfriend had dumped him, and he was just like, I just don't feel like doing the dishes. I've done them in a while. And his entire sink, his whole counter, whole kitchen was just empty, dirty dishes. He didn't want to do this. He was in some weird mental state where he just didn't want to. It could be gross, but it could be like you're in a mashed potatoes igloo. Or you're like just kind of like
Frito pie. He's just been eating junk food.
It might be unbearably gross to play in that level, but you could do this.
It's like you know how they have in Mario, they have like the sweets levels, like it's like, oh, it's all cakes, everything. It's like that, except it's all gross.
Yeah, it's got the gristle from the meat someone spit out.
Jesus.
This is disgusting.
Leftover food Dutch landscape.
Yeah, exactly. And then you draw a little like dried gravy trail from the mountains of mashed potatoes, like that leads past.
I have a question. Does it feel like this overall idea solves the problems we had with other ones?
Well, I mean, if we do it well, I mean, it seems like it kind of creates an iconic, surreal-looking image. And if we figure out, how to place Bob's struggle in that, and I think that would be another thing to do. But it does help. It's not. It's a very memorable visual and kind of neat idea. I think it solves that problem.
I do wonder, like, should we spend any time talking about the old idea and seeing if there's a way to fix that?
Other
high-level concept visual stuff? Because I do still, and it's just because we haven't spent a lot of time on the dish idea, but I do still feel like there's most of the other idea is still very strong, and that what's missing is fixable. But I could be wrong also. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, like the dishes appeal to me was that it's wrong to have a big stack of dirty dishes. Like everyone inherently knows it's wrong. I'm just trying to get in one image and indicate there's a problem, and then if you can indicate how Bob's struggling with that problem, it's just a village floating in the air just isn't anything.
No, I totally agree.
So the dishes thing might have problems and stuff, and we don't have to go to the dishes thing. But is it any more clear when you imagine the picture of like Bob trying to do the dishes and someone bringing in more and more dishes all the time, or just Bob sitting there and not doing the dishes while there's a big pile of dishes? Like, it's more surreal because it's grounded partially in the real world, and not a place that you would find in a fantasy novel, or a place that you'd find anything else except for a game about psychedelic metaphors and dreamlike imagery. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the stuff for Psychonauts 1 was done intuitively, and it was also thrown away in production like 7 times. And we're trying to sort of avoid that by doing more of this work up front. And so I don't think there's anything like at all unusual or bad about the situation that we're in. And I just want to make sure that you guys all understand that. This isn't like, oh God, why are we having so much trouble coming up with an idea? Like, we're trying to figure out how to articulate what makes some ideas good and some ideas bad, and we're figuring that process out together. So
some of the levels were in the first pitch for Psychonauts, some of the levels were described in it, and then some levels it was like a year into production, and we just had no idea what Milkman Conspiracy was going to be. It wasn't called Milkman Conspiracy. We just knew there was a paranoid level, and it wasn't until we were all at lunch. I always remember the first versions of all the levels in Psychonauts 1. I remember some of the older versions of them, and Mia's level, and all these levels that went through so much iteration that I had to remind myself that because the first versions of the first Psychonauts 1 levels were not good. At least not right away. It took a lot of throwing stuff out, redoing stuff.
Fun to think. Think all day.
People have been sort of struggling to come up with some concepts, and maybe taking a step back might refresh.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Ask me on the other side of that.
Please join me in welcoming Carol Shaw to Double Fine Productions. Where's Carol Shaw? Where's she? Yeah, stand up, stand up. Carol, what have we hired you here at Double Fine to do?
I am the new VP of Development here at Double.
Yay! Exactly. Right. That's awesome. Making the games. You're in charge of making the games, so good luck with that. Do you know what Amnesia Fortnite is?
I don't. It's like Bagel Day?
Yeah, it's like Bagel Day, exactly. Very good. I would like to ask your cooperation. Could you guys help us film a brief introduction to our Amnesia Fortnite video, which is just us saying Amnesia Fortnite is starting? Slide in there, slide that way. Are you how far over here? And it's just gonna be me being like, hey, you guys, you know what time it is? And then no one knows what I'm talking about, and someone's like, Bagel Day, or we're just gonna improv it. You guys, fuck it, we'll do it live. Okay, ready? Nothing is gonna go wrong. Hey, guess what time it is?
Boxing Day.
No.
Negative Halloween?
I don't even know what that is.
The Purge?
No.
Is that in your dryer?
The name is on the box. Okay, see? One take. You guys are the best. All right, sirs. Can you believe we're doing this again? We've learned nothing.
Fortnite? What's wrong with Amnesia Fortnite?
Right in your neck. This is crazy.
What's sticking right in my neck?
The scissors.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see anything. What are you talking about? How could it be sticking in my neck?
Just the perspective.
Do you want me to move it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Look. There.
It's better.
There. Okay. At least it took you a while to find it.